Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today we're going to be doing a trope recommendation video for second chance romances. So second chance romances, I've said in the past, are not my favorite. It is not my favorite trope, but there are some that I love. There are some second chance romances that are done so incredibly well where I actually understand why they broke up the first time. It was a good reason and their coming back together was just glorious. So I have a couple of them that I'm going to recommend to you, and they're ones that if you don't love second chance romances, I really think that you might want to try one of these. It's because I promise they're so good. I have 6 to recommend to you. And we're gonna just start with the first one that I have. So the first one that I have is Saint by Sierra Simone. Can we take a moment for this gorgeous indie cover that I just acquired in my collection? Saint was one of my favorite books of 2023, and I was so sad that I didn't have this indie cover. I have the indie covers for the rest of the series, but I never got Saint in time. And Sierra Simone herself sent me this cover, so oh my god, thank you so much, Sierra Simone. I fucking love you. But this book is amazing. Amazing. This is an MM romance about Aiden and Elijah. They were in a relationship together for a while, and Aiden suffers from depression and anxiety. And one night he is having a really bad night and he ends up leaving and joining a monastery. So obviously they break up because, you know, monk, it doesn't really, you can't be in a relationship and be a monk. So he ends up leaving Elijah and going and becoming a monk. And a couple of years later, Elijah shows up at the monastery, and Aiden is about to take his final vows, but Elijah shows up at the monastery. He is writing a story about the monks there who brew their own beer, and Elijah shows up and he ends up in a forced proximity situation with Aiden, and their feelings did not go away. They still very much love each other, but Aiden has found his peace at this monastery, and he is so worried about leaving the monastery and dealing with his depression again and his depression getting out of control. He is so focused on his own mental health and making sure that he is safe and that he is centered, and he loves Elijah desperately, but also needs to put himself and his own health in the forefront. And so they end up rekindling their romance, and Aiden ends up working through and deciding what he's gonna do about this, and it is amazing. It is gorgeous. The way that Sierra Simone talks about depression in this book is just so well done, and the writing is gorgeous. Aiden and Elijah are so complex characters, and it's an amazing story. If you don't love second chance romances, this is one that you might love, but I love this book with my whole heart, and I'm so happy I have this cover. Oh, so Sierra Simone, nobody writes like Sierra Simone. The next one that I have is Garnet Flat by Daphne Perry. This one is a small town romance where the hero is a fighter, or a retired fighter, and the heroine Talia, is her name Talia? Yeah. The heroine Talia is, she's a doctor in their small town, and the hero Foster moves to town and is wanting to get back with Talia. So Talia and Foster were together in college. They loved each other. And then right before they were about to move in together after graduating college, Foster announces that he is marrying Talia's best friend. Obviously, Talia is confused and so hurt by this. She feels so betrayed, and she's so upset and she ends up returning back to her small town. So now years later, she's a doctor in this small town. Foster shows up and he wants her back and she is not having it. But there are so many feelings still between them, and the reason for Foster leaving was annoying, but I also understood, like, he had no choice, but it was a little bit frustrating. But I still really loved this book. I loved the rekindling of their relationship. I loved Foster's determination to get Talia back, and it was a really, really fun one. The next one that I have is After the Storm by Laura Pavlov. This is the final book in the Cottonwood Cove series, but can definitely be read as a standalone. This one is about Cage and Presley. Presley and Cage were in a relationship. They deeply loved each other when they were younger, but they ended up, as they aged, as they grew up, their paths went in very different directions and they ended up separating. They desperately loved each other, but their lives just went in entirely different directions, and it was a very understandable reason for breaking up, but it was devastating to them nonetheless. Presley ends up very quickly getting married to somebody else, and Cage ends up having a daughter with a one-night stand. So now, years later, Presley is coming back to their small town of Cottonwood Cove, where Cage still lives with his daughter, and Presley is getting divorced, and she's coming back home because her father hurt himself and she wants to help him out. And they end up seeing each other again, and their feelings never went away. They were still there and strong, even through Presley's marriage, through all of the years of them being apart. They are each other's person, and it is that, like, invisible string Taylor Swift song of they are each other's soulmates. Through their entire lives, they were always going to end up back together. They were always going to end up together. They could try and separate for as long as they wanted, but they would always end up back together, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. It has that, like, micro trope that people are obsessed with that I love, where one of the characters has a tattoo for the other character. Oh, love that. I think Garnet Flat has that as well, and that's such an amazing, like, micro trope that it's so good. And this one is just so freaking amazing. The found family in Laura Pavlov's books are amazing, so I love Cage and his siblings and the way that they welcome Presley back into their family. Cage's daughter is freaking adorable, and I love the way that Presley falls in love with Cage's daughter. Like, it's gotta be, like, an incredibly difficult thing to see the person that you love have a child with somebody else, but the way that Presley took on the role of mom for the daughter and really was like she is the child of her heart was so freaking sweet, and I loved this book so much. The angst, the tension, oh, it's gorgeous. So well done. The next one that I have is Whispers of You by Catherine Cowles. This is a romantic suspense book, also small town, about Holt and what is the heroine's name? I never remember a character's names. Wren. Holt and Wren. So when they were in high school and younger, Holt and Wren were in a relationship. They loved each other, but during that time there was a shooting, and Catherine Cowles and her prologues are intense. So this prologue is one of the most intense ones that she has, and the heroine ends up getting severely injured in this shooting, and Holt feels responsible. He really just is somebody who wants to protect people, and the fact that he failed at protecting Wren tortures him, and he ends up leaving. And he goes into the military, I think, and then he ends up creating this security company, and he doesn't really ever return back to his small town. But years later, he does show up back in the small town. His father has been injured, and he comes back home to help out, and he sees Wren again. And Wren has, through all these years, has still really been a part of his family. She is friends with his siblings. She comes over for family dinners, and so he has no choice but to see her, and he still loves her. He just felt responsible for her injury, and he wanted to protect her, and so he left. But he still loves her, and coming back, and then when Ren ends up in danger again, Holt drops everything and wants to protect her. He moves in. He will not let her out of his sight. He becomes so protective, and it's so good. It's so good. And I loved this so much. Catherine Cowles does this amazing job of blending her romance and suspense. One never outshines the other. A lot of times I will have problems with romantic suspense where like the suspense plot is more interesting than the romance, or the romance is too interesting and the suspense plot's just like over there. But Catherine Cowles, they are equal in excitement, in intrigue, in just so good, and this romance is fabulous. The next one that I have is What Was Meant to Be by QB Tyler. This is one that I read very recently. I actually have a whole reading vlog reading this book, but this is a dad's best friend, second chance, forbidden romance. The heroine in this one's name is Whitney, and she had a relationship with her father's best friend, Jacob, who is also her godfather, for about a year and a half. And then Jacob ends up leaving, and he's in like Doctors Without Borders, and he ends up going to a different country to be a doctor there, and he breaks up with her, and she's devastated. She is completely and utterly devastated. But then she ends up getting engaged to somebody else, and when Jacob gets the engagement announcement in the mail, he drops everything to come back home to tell her she is not marrying somebody else, she belongs with him. And this romance is so spicy and so forbidden and tension-filled. I swear I was like having anxiety while reading this book, because I am somebody who like gets so nervous about the way that things are gonna like play out. So in a book like this, where her parents don't know that she's dating their best friend, I was like, oh my god, how is it gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Oh my gosh. But the tension, oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. And the spice, QB Tyler, the way she writes her spice, holy shit. This book was really good. I loved this and would highly recommend it. The final one that I have for this video is King of Greed by Anna Huang. This one is actually like marriage in trouble, but they do get divorced, so I'm calling this second chance because they do actually fully get divorced. So this one is about Dominic and Alessandra, I believe is her name, and they've been married for about 10 years. But Dominic has spent way too much of their time trying to build his empire and his work, and he has started very much neglecting Alessandra. And when he misses another event, she finally has enough. She is done, and she tells him she wants a divorce. And Dominic, not really realizing that something was wrong, is a little bit shocked, or very shocked, but he loves Alessandra. He loves her so much, and he ends up granting her that divorce despite how he tries to get things okay, but she wants her divorce. And then it's a second chance romance, and Alessandra needed the time to be her own person again. She had spent all of these years being Dominic's wife, and she had spent all of these years waiting around for Dominic to grant her that attention that she needed, and she neglected herself and all of her hobbies and everything about her, and she just doesn't feel like a real person anymore. And so during this divorce, she really finds herself, and she does things for herself, and it's really beautiful to see. And I love Dominic's grovel for that, to get her back, and the way that he really makes changes and understands what was wrong and works really hard to change that. And I really loved this. So freaking good. I would highly recommend it. But that is going to be it for this video. That's all of the ones that I had. So let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these, if you loved them, and if you have any more second chance recommendations for me that are similar to these books. Maybe I can find another one that I love. But that is going to be it for this video. So leave me a ring emoji, like a engagement ring emoji. But that's going to be it. So I hope that you have the absolute best day. Bye.